Hi everyone, welcome back to Cat Chat and episode 2 of my 3-part series on my journey with breast cancer and breast implant illness. Alright, so hopefully you've already had a chance to watch the first episode, which was just the journey of the breast cancer itself and the surgeries and reconstruction and tattooing and so forth. If not, go back and take a look at that. Here we're going to start where things started to go south, and that was when the breast implant illness started to set in. Now, I didn't know that's what it was at first. So the first things that started to show up were aches and pains, and I really not even for a second thought that those aches and pains might be related to the implants, not for a second. I attributed it to old age and having a labor-intensive job. And I was a waitress and was on my feet all the time. And, I put my body through a lot over the years. I had done 3 full marathons, done a lot of hiking, and was pretty hard on my body. I was pretty fit back then. And so I just thought my body is just getting to the point where it's like, okay, enough is enough. But I had been a waitress my whole life and never had aches and pains like this. So I started to wonder if there was something more to it, but I just still kept putting it off in the back of my head, like, it'll be fine, take an ibuprofen and call it a day. But I started to realize that no amount of ibuprofen or Tylenol was doing the trick, and it just got worse and worse. And then other things started to happen. I started to develop a terrible rash on my legs, especially my left leg. And it started out with just a red spot, and it spread to most of my leg from the knee down, and then jumped over to my right leg as well. And it was intense, and it was like a severe itching and inflammation. And when I went to the doctor, my primary care didn't know what it was, and gave me some creams and various creams and things. And then I went to a dermatologist, and he even did a biopsy on it and said, well, it doesn't seem to be anything. And they gave me stronger steroid creams, and none of those took care of it either. Meanwhile, the pain continued to escalate and get worse and worse, to the point of where I went to the doctor again and said something is wrong. Like, I have to credit my doctors, because there was a couple of times that I went into different doctors and just cried and said, you've got to help me. Like, this is like unbearable. Like, I wish I could express to you how bad the pain has gotten to be. Something is wrong. There must be something wrong. And finally, after some tests, we found that I had pernicious anemia, which was something but not everything. That just meant that my body wasn't absorbing B12, and so I had to take B12 shots once a week. But again, things still continued to escalate, and the pain had gotten so bad, and I don't even know for sure how I got through work sometimes. If you know what it feels like to get kicked in the shin, like how bad that hurts, like my whole body hurt like that all the time, and there was no relief. Again, no amount of ibuprofen or Tylenol or anything like that could touch it. I tried every cream and spray on the market, ice, everything, you name it, I tried it. Even, emotional freedom technique, doing the tapping and doing the meridians and anything that you can think of, acupuncture. And none of it was taking the pain away. So I had to sort of compartmentalize when I was at work. And let me tell you, I am well aware that I was reaching the point where I wasn't doing my job, the way I needed to be doing it. And I had the most amazing set of coworkers that helped pick up my slack. And I suppose part of that is because for the years leading up to this, I wasn't a great employee. I worked really hard. I had a great work ethic. I always showed up. I always went the extra mile. And, I think, I would like to think anyway, that my coworkers knew that and remembered that, and they were helping me out, and they were amazing, because, if you can't do the job, you can't do the job. And I'll be the first to say, if you can't do the job, you need to go. But then I asked myself, well, where am I going to go? Because I am in so much pain. You know, at least my job was trying to help accommodate me a little bit. And but still, I did the best I could, and I compartmentalized the pain and tried to just get through it with a positive attitude and a smile on my face. And that did help a lot, you know. But I would reach the point where I got off of work and I would walk to the bus stop, and then when I got on the bus, I finally sat down and my body was like, oh, thank God, now we can feel all the feels, you know, like I've been holding it in. And then I would just cry most of the way home, and just like it hurt so bad that I would even just like clench up and just tremble because it hurt so bad. And I would try pounding my feet on the ground, you know, to try to get circulation or something, you know, like it just hurt so bad. And I remember one incident where I got off the bus and I had parked at the park and ride, and I had to walk maybe a half a block or so to my car, and I was in so much pain. It must have taken me close to a half an hour to get to my car, and I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought I might have to crawl there because I hurt so bad. I just kept taking the tiniest steps and then stopping and just waiting for the waves to pass and trying to take a deep breath and just like, okay, Kathleen, you just got to dig deep. You've got to get there. Just dig deep. And, you know, somehow I made it there and got home, and I start the cycle all over again. And this continued until I went back to the doctors again and just again broke down and said, you've got to help me. Something's wrong. And then they found that I had hyperparathyroidism. And so at that point, then my numbers were sort of off the charts, and they let me know that the only way to fix that was to remove one of my parathyroid glands, which is, you have 4 of them behind your thyroid gland here in your neck, and they're like the size of a lentil. So they take out one of them, and that's supposed to hopefully relieve my pain and all this stuff. It did not relieve my pain. Maybe marginally, but not really. I think I talked myself into thinking that the pain was less, but really I was more distracted by what came after that, which was almost worse, or at least just as bad. It felt like a beehive inside of my body. Like my whole body just vibrated on the inside, and it just was like this constant buzzing, like constant. It never went away, 24/7. And I had vertigo. I couldn't walk without a walking stick. I couldn't go up and down the stairs. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do almost anything except just sit in my chair and just sit. And I distracted myself with watching old reruns of I Love Lucy and all kinds of things, but I reached a point of feeling pretty miserable. And every time I went back to the doctor for checkups after that, all this time I had to be off work. And when I would go back, they would say, well, you should be getting over those symptoms by now. It should be getting better. They should be going away. And they gave me like gabapentin and various things. And none of it really made it go away. And the pain still wasn't gone. And it took several months for the buzzing to start to dissipate a little bit. And then the neuropathy in my hand stayed up until a long while later. And I'll talk more about that later with one of the healing modalities that I use that finally got rid of that. But anyway, I just reached a point where I said, well, this is my life now, because they're saying that there's nothing else that they can do and they can't find anything else wrong with me. So I guess this is my life, and I just need to figure out how I'm going to deal with the pain and how I'm going to, manage the rest of my life, because I certainly can't be moping around and need to find a way. So about this time, a friend mentioned breast implant illness to me and asked if I'd considered that might be what's wrong with me. And I had never heard of it. I was like, what's that? And so I started researching it, looking into it. Immediately, I knew that that's what it was. Every symptoms that was listed, I listened to story after story after story of women who were going through the same thing, some of them even worse than I was, with their implants. and having their symptoms go away once they removed their implants. And so I started to say, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to get rid of these things, get these toxic sacs out of my body. This is what my problem has been all along. So I felt relieved and also annoyed that that was the problem, like, all along, and nobody, I mean, the medical community is still learning about this stuff, so I really can't even fault the medical community at this point. But anyway, so I made the appointment to with my surgeon to have them removed, and this is the same plastic surgeon that put them in the first place. And her first, when I expressed my concerns about the implants, her reaction and statement to me was, well, it isn't scientifically proven, that they cause problems, but I'm not really sure what that means and how many women have to get sick and recover when they have them taken out for it to be scientifically proven. But nevertheless, I don't fault her for it, because she has to still stand by what the manufacturers are telling her. And anyway, she's an amazing surgeon, and I don't have anything bad to say about her. She was just fantastic through the entire, all 6 surgeries that I had with her. So all that being said, I made the appointment. This was right at the very start of COVID, by the way. And so I was all set to have them removed. And then I got the call that, the hospitals were canceling all elective surgeries because of the pandemic. And so my heart sank again and was like, okay, how much longer am I going to have to live with these things? And fortunately, it was just a few months, and they had a small, short time where they opened up the hospitals for elective surgeries again, and I got right in there, and I was so grateful that I got them out. And I was really hoping for an immediate turnaround, just like that, the symptoms are going to go away, because a lot of women that I read their stories, they did start to feel better immediately. I did not have that experience, and I was a little disappointed. Actually, I was really disappointed, but it was gradual. I did notice some differences, and slowly but surely, I started to feel a little bit better. And I used a bunch of different healing modalities over the next 2 years to make myself better, and they all involved natural healing and using food for cures and things like that. So I'm going to talk about a lot of the healing modalities that I used in other episodes, but just to touch lightly on a couple of them. I use red light therapy and earthing and grounding, some various supplements. So every single thing that I did helped me in some way. Medical medium was another one. I did his protocols for a year with the celery juice and that. But there were so many of them, but they all helped and contributed to my healing in some way. None of them was an overnight cure, much to my chagrin. We all hope that everything is going to be that miracle thing that fixes everything overnight, but it has been a long 2 years. But I'm happy to say that after, over 2 years of doing various things and taking good care of my body and doing what I can to flush all those toxins out of my body that leached in there, that I have now gotten to a point of being virtually pain-free. Aside from I have a knee issue from when I used to do marathons. And other than that, the pain that I was feeling on a daily basis is virtually gone. And the only real symptom remaining is the extra weight that I gained, because, I couldn't move. Aside from working, which I eventually couldn't even do, I just was in so much pain and agony all the time that I couldn't even conceive of the notion of trying to exercise. It was all I could do to get from the bed to the bathroom. It was that bad. And to go from doing full marathons and hiking 10-mile hikes to not being able to get to the bathroom, it's not just crushing on the physical body, it's crushing on the mental body. And it took its toll on me. Definitely there were days that I felt that despair of how am I going to continue my life like this? Like, this is horrible. But I'm fortunate that I have, been blessed with, the ability to keep a positive attitude most of the time. And that's not to say that I didn't have my dark moments, because certainly I did. Fortunately, I was able to pull myself out of them pretty quickly and get back to my positive attitude and just like pull myself up and move on and try to find another solution. And it's not easily done, and many props to all of you out there that have done this. And I know you know who you are. And I also give lots of props to my amazing friends and family that supported me through all this, most especially my sister Linda, who came for every single one of my surgeries and helped to take care of me. And one of my surgeries, she had just gone home. I live in Seattle, she lives in Bend, and in Oregon. And she drove over here and she stayed with me through the entire surgery process. She'd been here for like 6 weeks taking care of me. She finally went home, and it was just a few days after she went home or maybe a week or so, and she had to turn around and come back because that's when I got the staph infection. So, yeah, she's amazing. I could never have gotten through any of these things without her, and I'll be forever in her debt. Anyway, I'm grateful to everybody who supported me through this entire process, but I'm most grateful that now I have my health back. So, I look at people now like jogging down the street or engaging in some other physical activity, and I wonder, like, do they have any idea how fortunate they are that their bodies work as well as they do and that they're able to move like that? Like, I never gave it a second thought back when I was feeling fit and before any of this happened. I took my health so for granted. And now I'm just so grateful every day that I'm not in pain. And I wouldn't have, if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't be so grateful. So I guess there's definitely perks to going through some of this stuff. And anyway, I am grateful to have gone through the journey. I certainly wouldn't have want to go through it again. However, I wouldn't do anything different either, because everything that I went through brought me to where I am today and made me the person I am today, and I like who I am. So it's all good. Things are moving in the right direction for me. So again, this is not in any way any medical advice for anybody. I would never be so bold as to tell anyone what to do. I wouldn't tell you not to get implants, because nobody could have talked me out of getting them back then. At the time, I was not ready to not have breasts. And even if you had told me that this was a possibility, that I might be going through this, I probably would have said, that's not going to happen to me. That happens to other people. It's not going to happen to me. So you couldn't have talked me out of it. Fortunately, the laws now have been changed so that you do have to have more information given to you than I was given. But again, I don't know that it would have made a difference for me. I would like to think that it would have, but at the time I just wasn't in a place that I wasn't ready to have breasts. So I probably would have still gone through with it, just hoping that I wasn't going to have that experience. But that said, having the information would have alerted me to realizing that this was the problem earlier on than I did, and maybe avoided, a lot of the pain and suffering that I did go through. So anyway, I hope that this helps you. I hope, that this information helps you form some sort of a decision if you are in the middle of making that decision, or if you're having symptoms, maybe this is like, like you're realizing this could be your problem, if you are suffering in some way. But, lots of people don't have issues. So, I hope that you're one of those people that doesn't have issues, because I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It was horrible. Anyway, again, it's a very personal decision, and one that you'll have to make on your own. I'm simply here to tell you my journey and hope that some of my experience in some way helps you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'll answer as many as I can. Just drop them in the comments below. The final thoughts I'd like to leave you with today are this. I've learned a lot of lessons along the way of this journey, and I think the biggest lesson I learned was I don't need to have breasts in order to feel feminine or sexy or attractive. I don't need to be a certain size to feel comfortable in my own body. I think with age, we also gain the wisdom and the ability to give ourselves permission to be comfortable in our own skin and comfortable in our own body, regardless of what it looks like. All right, that's going to wrap it up today for another edition of Cat Chat. Be sure to catch episode 3, where I do show the photos of my journey. And it is a bit graphic, but don't worry, it's nothing gross or disgusting. It's just my journey and sort of what the breasts look like as they progress, going through all the multiple reconstructive surgeries. All right, if this video was helpful to you and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe below. Also hit the notification button because you'll want to be sure to catch other future episodes besides episode 3 that I just mentioned. As I mentioned, I am going to be doing videos on the various healing modalities that helped me the most during my recovery. Until next time, I hope you all have an amazing day. You know you deserve it. Mwah.